It was nearly time for us to. I was with Marshal Strakensch, who I had to trust to keep the future of Ruritania safe. "You must promise that you'll protect Princess Flavia from the Duke," I told him. "As you know, his mother was not royal and he can only legally become king if he marries the princess." "I promise," Marshal Strakensch said, bowing. "Now I'll write down what I've just said. But my finger still hurts." "Yes, sir," he said, watching me write. "The writing's a little different from your usual. I hope people know it's a real order from the king." "I trust you," I told him, and he smiled. "The princess will be safe with me," he said. I returned to the palace and told Chapte and Fritz to get ready to go to Zenda. There was only one thing left for me to do before we went. I went to tell Flavia that I was leaving Strelsa to go hunting. "So you'd prefer to hunt animals than do your duties in the capital?" she asked quietly. "The thing I hunt is a very big animal," I explained. "Because I'll be hunting Michael." The princess looked very worried. "This'll be dangerous," she said. "If I don't come back, you must become queen for me." She then stood tall and said, "I don't really know what's going on, but I'll do whatever is right for Ruritania. If that means becoming the queen, then so be it." "Thank you," I said. "Let us hope that it's not necessary." I knew, however, that this was more than possible. About 8 kilometers from Zenda, on the opposite side of the town to where the castle stands, there is a leafy wood on a low hill. On top of the hill is a large, modern country house called Tarlenheim, which belongs to a relative of Fritz. He does not often visit the house, so when Fritz asked if we could use it for a hunting trip, he happily agreed. So the next day, Chapte, Fritz and I set off from the capital and arrived at the country house at about midday, with a large party of servants and 10 brave and strong gentlemen that I trusted. We had told these men that Michael had tried to kill me and that a good friend of the king's was held prisoner in the castle. They knew it was our job to set him free, and being brave and loyal, they did not need to ask any more questions. However, it did not take long for Duke Michael to hear about our arrival, and after only an hour, we were visited by 3 of his famous 6 men, the Ruritanians Longram, Krafstein, and Rupert Hentzau. I am sure they knew that we were not really there to hunt animals but had a much bigger plan. The youngest and strongest of the 3, Rupert Hentzau, told us how sorry the Duke was that we could not stay in his mansion, but unfortunately the Duke and many of his servants had a dangerous illness, so it was best if we stayed away. His speech was formal and polite, but I did not believe a word he said. "I'm sorry to hear this," I said to them. "I hope my brother feels better soon." "And what of your friends de Gautet, Bursnin and Dietrich? I heard that Dietrich was injured?" Rupert smiled at me and said, "You needn't worry, Dietrich will be fine." "Good. Perhaps you would like to stay and eat with us?" I said. "You're very kind," said Rupert, "but unfortunately we have important duties and need to get back to at the castle." "Of course you do," I laughed. "Thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you all again." When they had gone, Chapte said, "That Rupert's the worst criminal of them all." That evening, I set off for Zenda with Fritz. Our journey, we knew, could be a dangerous one, but my face was covered and we felt safe because there were many people on the roads. We did not go near the castle, however, but went to the inn where I had stayed on my first night in Ruritania. "I've been here before," I told Fritz. "Won't they recognize you, then?" he said. "Of course. Just do as I say and everything will be fine." I kept the coat over my face as we entered the inn and we asked to have a meal in a quiet room at the back. When the owner's daughter brought us our food, I uncovered my face so she could see me. "You're the king!" she cried, almost dropping our plates. "I remember you when you stayed with us. I told my mother you weren't really an Englishman and that you were the king. I'm sorry if we said anything bad when you stayed with us. I'll forgive you if you promise to help us," I said. I explained that I wanted to see Johann. "He never comes here anymore," she explained. "He works at the castle now. But you're still friends and you must ask to see him," I told her. "Tell him to meet you tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, then bring him to our house. And tell no one that you've seen the king. Do you understand? You won't hurt him, will you, sir?" "Not if he does as we ask," I promised. She agreed happily, and after our meal we returned to Tarlenheim late that night. As we got off our horses, Chapte ran out of the house and cried, "So you're safe?" "We're fine. Why shouldn't we be? It seems that it's dangerous to ride in this area unless you're in a large group. One of our men, Bernstein, went out alone in the woods today. He saw 3 men in the trees and one shot him. He's upstairs in bed with a bullet in his arm. The next bullet could be for you. We thought that we would be safe in the country house, but I was wrong." The next day, I was resting in the living room when Rupert visited the house alone. "I have a message for you, Rassendyll," he said. "If you do not know how to address the king, my brother must find another messenger," I replied coldly. "Why do you continue to pretend?" He laughed. "We all know who you are. But you can't say that in public, can you? Because then people would know you've kidnapped the real king. You know the game's not finished yet, and until it is, I will choose my own name," I said. "So, what is your message?" "The Duke offers you more than I would. He offers you a safe journey to the border and 1,000,000 gold pieces. Tell the Duke that I refuse his generous offer. How's his prisoner, by the way?" "He's still alive," said Rupert. "Good, now go from here, while you can," I said. Rupert gave me a cold look and asked his servant to prepare his horse. I followed him out of the house, and just as he was about to climb on his horse, he stopped and said, "Let's shake hands." He stepped nearer to me and suddenly stabbed me in the shoulder with his knife. I cried out, but Rupert rode off fast before I could do anything. Although my shoulder hurt, I was lucky it was not a bad injury, though I was angry at letting myself fall for such a trick. I was put to bed and told to sleep, which I did for several hours. When I woke up, it was dark and I found Fritz beside me. "The doctor says your arm will soon be better," he said. "And the good news is that your plan has worked, for the girls brought Johann to the house. He's downstairs right now, and the strange thing is that I think Johann's happy to be here," said Fritz. "He seems to know that if Michael's plan is successful, he'll be in trouble because he knows too much." This made me think that Johann would be more useful to us than I had first thought. Surely with the right encouragement, he would make the perfect spy for us. I went downstairs and asked to see Johann. The guards had brought him in with his hands tied behind his back. I sat him down in a chair, where he sat looking sad and afraid. As we talked to him, we understood that Johann was a weak man but not a wicked one. He said he worked for Michael because he was afraid of him, not because he liked him, and he seemed happy to tell me Michael's secrets. He told us that there were 2 small rooms inside the castle, which you could only reach by crossing the drawbridge. The rooms were cut into the rock below the ground. One room had no windows, so it was always lit by candles. Behind it was a second room with a small window, where the king was kept in chains. From the window, a large stone pipe led down to the castle moat. The first room was always guarded by 3 of the 6 men. They were told that, if some people attacked the first room and it was in danger of being taken, Dietrich should go into the other room and kill the king. The body would then be put down the pipe and the weight of his chains would keep the body underwater. Calling out to the other men, Dietrich would then escape down the same pipe and swim across the moat. The other 2 men would then follow him and the duke's horses would take them to safety. So anyone searching the castle would find nothing, just an empty room. "What if many men attacked the castle?" I asked. "They have another plan," he explained. "If the castle is attacked by a large group of soldiers, they would do the same thing, but one of the 6 men would take the king's place. So when Michael arrived at the castle, he could say that he was only keeping one of the 6 men as prisoner because he'd been rude to Antoinette de Malban. No one would believe that the king was ever there." "It's a very clever plan," said Chapte angrily. "It means that if we attack the castle quietly and secretly, or openly with a great army, the king will still be dead before we can save him. Rassendyll, I think that this time next year, you'll still be king." My pulse quickened at the thought of remaining king forever. But without proving that Michael had killed the real king, the duke would still be there, in his castle, waiting for his opportunity to take my place. I would never be safe. Does the king know about Michael's plan? I asked Johann. Yes, and so does my brother, Max. He helped to put up the pipe to the prison window. It's not easy to sleep at the castle of Zenda because no one feels safe. Everyone in it is a criminal, except the king. Thank you, Johann, I said to him. You can go back to the castle now. If anyone asks you if there is a prisoner in the castle, you can say there is. But if anyone asks you who the prisoner is, do not answer. We can help you if you keep your promises, otherwise you'll never be safe again. Johann bowed to me as he left. We hoped he could be trusted. So, what are we going to do now? Asked Chapte. I thought long and hard. There are two ways in which the king can come out of Zenda alive, I said. One is if we have a miracle, and the other is if one of the duke's men betrays him.